the skills and the patience and the expertise to be able to deal with it. But the unfortunate situation is that SDF unfortunately put us in that and put their international partners in this circumstance to start with, something that we're working to address. She had a question.
No, he asked my question.
Okay.
Ambassador, Michelle Nichols from Reuters. Given the events of the past few days, how would you describe the current relationship between the Syrian government and the US government, and what conversations have you been having?
I think the latest tweet by Ambassador Tom Barrack just a few moments ago really encapsulated. The US has been a valued partner since day one in engagement with the SDF. They've been part of all our talks and all our proposals. They have seen that we deliver on our promises. They have seen how long it takes the SDF to be able to make a decision. They have seen the steps that we've taken to enshrine Kurdish rights independent of the talks. As you know, the decree number 13 did not come as a result of negotiations, but as a result of firm belief. We also work with the United States on so many different other issues of kind of mutual and joint interest.
Ambassador Farnoosh Shamiri with AP. Has President Trump or any U.S. official approached you or any other Syrian official, including President al-Shara, to join the Board of Peace in recent days?
At the moment, I don't have any information as to that. Sorry.
Mr. Ambassador, Islam Dora from Anadolu Agency. Was there any other international or regional parties for this latest agreement, especially Turkey played any role in it?
I mean, for us, the issue of the SDF and the issue of ISIS, of course, has regional implications. But for us, we're very keen that these should be Syrian talks and that Syria should take the lead. This is a kind of Syrian matter. Of course, with a lot of the regional partners and allies, we've been working with them in a way that, preserves Syria's sovereignty, deals with the Syrian sensitivities that are different from any kind of regional country. But a lot of countries have been backing us and giving us the support that we need, the political support, for us to be able to reach those agreements. Last question.
Yes, we see some footages shows that...
Could you just introduce yourself, please?
Yes, Sinan from Spot Press Cooperative. The question is, we see some footages shows that some HTS forces are carrying the ISIS emblems on their outfit, and on the other hand, some footages show that they're cutting people's civilians' hats, and that's proved by some footages. What's your reaction to that?
We have seen a lot of disinformation that has been circulating around. Everything that we will see, we will definitely look into specifically to be able to see. But we've seen, for example, during the Battle of Aleppo and for Sheikh Maqsoud, that there was so much disinformation going around that this is a massacre against the Kurds when the Kurds were actually moving into government-held areas. So in light of so much disinformation that is happening that actually harms the Kurdish rights and the genuine kind of Kurdish demands that exist, we have to be very careful before reaching any conclusions. In cases where certain things went wrong in the past, we have let the UN in, we've investigated, we've held trials. If anything to that effect happens again, we have shown that we will take responsibility for those actions. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Shukran jazeelan.
All right, you've been listening to Syria's ambassador to the United Nations, Ibrahim Olabi. He's been answering questions on the ongoing fighting in the northeast of Syria over the past couple of days. Now, we're going to bring in Ayman Oghanna. He is our correspondent who's in Damascus, and he's been following this for us. Ayman, I want to talk to you quickly about the U.S. envoy to Syria, Tom Barrack. He says that the Syrian government is now willing to take over the security of ISIL detention centers in that area. What would that look like in practice?
Well, yes, we've just heard the U.S. Special Envoy to Syria say in a statement that he's going to work with Damascus as his main partner and no longer the SDF in terms of the coalition against ISIL, including duties such as taking care or looking after, making sure the ISIS prisoners are under control. Now, it's telling that Barrack made this statement in Ankara after visiting the Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. Turkey's position has always been that the SDF is the Syrian branch of the PKK, an organization Turkey has been at war with for over 40 years in a conflict that has claimed 40,000 lives. Barrack said that previously there was no stable, reliable central government partner in the fight against ISIL, obviously the Assad regime they couldn't work with. So they worked with the SDF when they could. But now they're saying that the SDF is no longer their main focus and that Damascus will be their most reliable partner. Now, the US has enjoyed a special relationship with the SDF for more than a decade. They've trained the SDF, they've equipped the SDF, they've fought alongside the SDF, and there are still 900 troops in territory controlled by the SDF. But in recent years, since the fall of the Assad regime last year, we've seen Washington deepen its ties to Damascus. A little more than a year ago, President Ahmed al-Shara was designated a terrorist by the US with a bounty on his head. But now all of that's changed. Last November, al-Shara was in the White House where he was feted by Trump and formally agreed to join the coalition against ISIL. Now, some Kurds we spoke to before this conflict and crisis in the northeast said they were worried that Washington would choose its relationship with Damascus and Ankara over its relationship with the SDF and effectively abandon them. Well, in some ways, that fear has now been realized as Washington is committing itself to working with the Syrian Damascus government and no longer the SDF.
And Ayman, the Syrian presidency has also announced now, in addition to this, that there's this new common understanding with the SDF on the Hasakah province. Do we know what that contains and what that means at this point?
Yes, that's right. So this common understanding goes into effect 8 p.m. tonight, Syria time, and it lays out a plan for Hasakah province. In military terms, the Damascus government and military and Syrian army are not going to enter Kurdish majority populated areas in Hasakah, including the cities of Hasakah and Qamishli, as well as villages with majority Kurdish population. There's also a political element too, which is kind of a concession. It says that the SDF will be able to put forward a candidate for Deputy Defense Minister and the governor for Hasakah. Now, Hasakah has been a sticking point in negotiations. At the US brokered deal last Sunday, it remained an ambiguous point. But the government said in this common understanding that the region of Hasakah now has 4 days to integrate under Damascus control. So this is a really big statement. It's a game changer in terms of the relationship between the SDF and Damascus seems to be giving the SDF an ultimatum. We haven't heard back from the SDF yet, but this really is a game-changing ultimatum for the northeast of Syria.
Ayman Oghanna reporting live for us from Damascus in Syria. Ayman, thank you. Sorry, before we let you go, though, I just want to ask you one more question here about this. As you mentioned, this does seem to be a bit of an ultimatum. What is the likelihood that the SDF is going to take that and take this sort of 4-day window that we've seen in this and be able to make something of it? Or is that too short of a window, potentially, given what we've been seeing on the ground there?
Well, it's complicated. I think politically, the SDF leaders don't really have much choice, especially with the statement from Tom Barak. But the SDF is a coalition of forces. It's Kurdish-led. The Kurds only make up about 30% of the fighters. They're a broad coalition of different groups. The Kurdish-led SDF has everything from PKK fighters to Arab tribesmen. Now, it might be clear that the SDF command and the SDF main troops will follow this ultimatum and heed the calls from Damascus to integrate. But there's a lot to be said about what these PKK fighters may do. Will they lay down their arms? They don't really have anywhere else to go. They might stay and fight for what they see as the Kurdish cause in Syria's northeast.
And Ayman, what are we seeing right now on the ground in northeast Syria? Are we seeing this ceasefire hold? Are we still seeing clashes, defections? What's the situation on the ground right now?
Well, on Sunday, there was a US-brokered ceasefire deal, but it didn't seem to hold at all. Since then, there have been many infractions, with both sides accusing each other of inciting fighting, of taking on each other, of taking ground, of even war crimes. Some government sources said that the SDF were executing prisoners, and the SDF said that the government forces were executing prisoners. This ceasefire might come into effect at 8 p.m. tonight, but it might be a very different reality on the ground with all these different components and forces in what is a chaotic situation, trying to settle down and see what will happen next.
All right, Ayman, thank you very much for that update. Now, I've got to ask you, I want to ask you one more question here about this opportunity here that, as the National Army says, this opportunity that it is given to the SDF. Do we know at any point what the SDF would have to agree to at this point within this deal?
Yes, so in the Sunday US-brokered ceasefire deal, there were several points that were made but quite ambiguous, and there are sticking points, and one of them was the integration of SDF fighters, which is going to remain a sticking point for the SDF and for Damascus. A previous March agreement said that the SDF, who has tens of thousands of fighters, would form 3 divisions within the military with Kurdish command as well as Damascus command, and there would be a separate branch of the military. But since then, the game has changed, the rules have changed. And Damascus is now saying that these SDF fighters have to be integrated on an individual basis, separated from their Kurdish command and separated from each other under full Damascus control. So there's a lot of sticking points, and we'll see on the ground what happens next.
Ayman Oghanna, thank you very much for joining us and breaking this down for us.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.